Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt show. My name is Matt Bertho, and I'm your host, of course. And I have Jason Meland with me today. And Jason, first of all, I can say this: Jason is a ninja, and we're going to talk about what that means today. But also, Jason has a giant heart. I met him at the BLN in Washington, D.C. I got to spend some really intimate time with him on a couple of occasions with our man Gene, who I'm going to have on the podcast next week, I think. But Jason, welcome to the show, and I'm excited to hear how you found your voice.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to be able to share, and hopefully it helps inspire somebody else to find and hone their voice.
Yeah. So, Jason, tell them a little bit about you in your own words, kind of your upbringing, where you grew up, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, again, my name is Jason Meland, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called the In Demand Coach, and where we teach people how to become the sought after and in demand coaches that they are meant to be. But it didn't start that way. And so I grew up in South Florida, Miami, and pretty much lived in Florida my entire life, different parts of Florida my entire life, in and out of trouble as a child, and that became a firefighter to kind of get myself on the right track. And I actually was a firefighter for quite a while, and I've had opportunities to do some pretty cool things, and that I'm super grateful for. And sometimes I have to pinch myself to be like, did this really happen? Like growing my own gym, very successful gym, being on American Ninja Warrior and like living out my dream there. And yeah, just kind of living my dream life right now and super, super honored.
So, Jason,
Uh,
as a fireman, that's kind of a superhero in my book.
mhm, yeah.
What were some of the cool things, if you can tell us, that you got to be a part of?
Yeah. Well, this will probably bleed right into how I found my voice, but I wanted to be a superhero for my entire life.
Hmm.
Really rough upbringing as far as like gang violence and things that I was a part of.
Who was your favorite? Who's your favorite superhero? I mean, I have many. I know that's a tough
N-
question.
Now it's Batman, but for very different reasons. Growing up, though, I would say it was probably Captain America.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, we both share that in common, right? We have
Yep.
that. I like Batman now because outside of like one or two other less known superheroes, Batman's the only superhero that doesn't actually have superpowers. He taught himself skills and pretty much how to do everything that he's doing. And I think that really resonates with a lot of entrepreneurs and people out there. And so that's kind of why I like Batman now because of the
Batman likes to
the
go to his
intricacies.
cave. He likes to go to his cave.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
Why do you like to go to your cave?
Oh, this is like my sanctuary. I do my breath work here. I
Hmm.
meditate here. I connect with so many amazing humans here. I I create content here. I make money here.
Ha.
There's there's just so much that happens. So my cave has a lot of positive uh vibes around it. So I like coming into my cave, and it's not just a cave. Out my window here, I have a pool and like a green. I live in Florida, right? So we have like a jungle in our backyard. It's really beautiful. So it's a light cave. There's a lot of things that come in. So it's a good spot.
Um, you talked about your morning routine. I mean, Jason's in great shape, guys. He's a built man. He's worked really hard to get himself super healthy. And that's inspiring because I know how hard that is, and I know how much discipline that takes to do that. Um, growing up, Jason, what you kind of talked a tiny bit about it, about how it was hard growing up in the area that you grew up in. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because you know, Batman, the tragic moment in his life was losing his parents. they got shot. Um, did you? Because American Ninja Warrior, that's so badass. That's like, I mean, I can't. I probably would make it through like maybe one, if that, right? And what made you dive into this? If Batman can be a superhero or Captain America can be a superhero, why can't I? Because that's what I feel from you is like this constant searching for your inner greatness, right? Like, how
Hmm.
can I be a model for the rest of the world to show them what's possible?
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this listening, but I am on a constant, like, it's a week by week thing. Like, wait, is this my purpose? Am I living my, there's gotta be, is there more to it? Yeah, it's just constant investigation. I would say, so the first memory I have of this is it was my first day of kindergarten in
Yeah.
a school in North Miami. And I remember walking in to the school. I was really scared, was really nervous. I was this like small kid in the school of Miami. I was pretty much the minority in that school. And I walk into a bathroom to use it. I had to go poop.
Oh, yep.
TMI
There we
maybe.
go. No, that's
But I was
great. We love poop jokes and,
we love poop jokes.
pee jokes on
And
Voice by Matt. We love that.
I was sitting in the stall, and then all of a sudden I hear this door open, and all these loud kids came in. I was a little 5-year-old, and there was all these older kids, and all of a sudden the stall to my bathroom started getting kicked, and all these kids were like, come on out," and like they had no idea
Ugh.
who I was. This was my first day at school, and next thing I know, they broke the latch of the door, kicked the door stall in, and they just started to beat me and to like hit me with their backpacks and kick me and all kinds of stuff. And I remember just yelling for help. And after about a couple minutes of yelling, the kids kindly left. Nobody came. I was just there alone, crying, scared. And I remember walking up to the principal's office and just being like, "Hey, like these kids just beat me up." They were like these older uh,
Mm.
fifth graders. And I remember they brought in a bunch of kids in a lineup, and nothing happened. Like they just like came, like nobody really did anything. And I remember like feeling like my voice didn't matter. Like in that
Mm.
moment, I didn't know it then. This is something I discovered a lot later in life, but I was just like, my voice doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what I say. Nobody got in trouble here, and I just had to go back. And now I was even more scared because I thought I was like, these kids are gonna probably think I tattled on them, and they're gonna beat me up more. And it was true. And that happened more and more. And like throughout the rest of my childhood, I would say all the way up until like high school and even into high school, it was just a lot of middle school, high school, a lot of gang violence and a lot of fighting. Um, there was a point that, I got stabbed once. I got thrown off of a
Bro,
bridge.
I got
And it was
stabbed
actually,
too. Right here.
yeah, me too, right here in the arm too.
What? Are
Same
you
spot.
serious? No way,
Yeah.
Jason.
I swear. Yeah.
In the
The scar.
artery?
Yeah. Oh, right next to it.
Bro, we got to take our picture together with that.
I have
I've never.
a full sleeve tattoo, but you could still see like right here. There's like a scar.
Well, I want to hear your story and then I'll tell my story about that.
I think even more profound because this led me to a realization, a big realization. So I was this was in North Florida now at this point. This is years and years later. I was maybe 15 years old, 16 years old, somewhere around there. And I was hanging out with this girl who we just started dating,
Oh, yeah.
and we were hanging out at this bridge that kind of overlooks the Gulf of Mexico. And it was like
Oh,
an old pier, and
how
so it
old were
wasn't really
you?
used. I was like 16 maybe
Okay.
at the
High
time.
school love.
Yeah, and it was like an old pier. Not a lot of people used it except to come and go fishing. It overlooked the Gulf of Mexico. And uh I don't know how this happened or why. I'm guessing she probably texted him. I don't know, but like her ex-boyfriend and a bunch of his little hoodlum friends showed up, and they proceeded to throw me off of a bridge.
Oh, geez,
And
Jason.
Um, I think the intention was to leave me for dead. And I remember in the moment, like I was fighting. It was a seawall right here. I was fighting to get up the seawall, and it was high. It was maybe, I don't know the exact measurements, of course, but it was maybe 14, 15 feet high. I couldn't reach it. I just couldn't get up there. And I remember after about 5 minutes, it felt like at least 5 minutes of fighting to get up. I just couldn't. Everybody, there was nobody there. Like nobody inside. It was dark. It was probably 11 p.m. at that time. It was very late.
Mm.
And I just remember like just kind of giving up and floating in the Gulf of Mexico, starting to get a little wavy. And I thought I was going to die. And I remember in that moment, I wasn't very faith driven back then, but I remember in this moment, I felt like God in me. And like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, but I felt like the presence of God.
Mm.
And again, I was definitely not very faith driven back then at all. And in that moment, I was just like, I could do this. And it was something like, I don't know how else to explain this. Like, so, if you've ever seen the movie Moana, how like
Yeah,
the
I love
water kind of lifts
Moana.
her up,
It's one of my favorites.
I don't know exactly the phenomena or how this happened, if it was like what exactly happened that night, but there was a wave that lifted me up high enough where I can get my wrist, and there's a scar here. I was able to dig my wrist into the side of a seawall,
What the
and
hell?
it slit my wrist open like bad. Like it was opened up,
Oh,
but I was able to get my hand over the other edge and pull myself up. There was blood just dripping down my arm. I had a white Hanes t-shirt on. I remember being like the Incredible Hulk, who's back here in my collection. I ripped
uh-huh.
off my shirt, but
Oh,
the adrenaline was pumping so hard. And I remember tourniquet, I wrapped up my wrist. And this was a moment where when I got up, there was a man who was fishing. And I know that he heard me yelling. And this is like probably the 30th time in my life where I'm like, my voice doesn't matter.
oh
Nobody
man.
cares. Like
Man.
this guy was right here the whole time. It didn't even come and look. And he just looked at me and was like, I was like, what
Oh my
world are we living
God.
in? But it shifted something in me that night. It shifted something in me that night where I was like, it was almost an empowering thing versus a disempowering like happened throughout the rest of my childhood. This was like an empowering belief where it's like, and I think it was the presence of God, where it was just like, you, like, it's up to you. There's
Mm.
nobody that's going to save you. It
Yeah.
is up to you to take control and and to lead your life. And I think that was one of the most profound moments that, like, in my early life
Well, you
that
had
I
a
can remember.
choice. You're gonna live or die. Like
Yeah,
you had a choice in that moment. Like I can just give up right now and die, or I can live. I can fight. I can give everything I got in that moment.
yes, yeah,
Mm. So that obviously started the origin story of the power of the superhero for Jason. You know.
yeah. A couple years later, I became a firefighter,
Yep.
um, which came from a whole nother incident of being, I got in a lot of trouble. I turned to drugs back then. I turned to drugs and alcohol. You know, I was a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, a lot of
You
trauma,
you're
a lot
like
of fear.
you smoking marijuana or like
M-
heavy.
yeah, marijuana, cocaine,
Oh
alcohol.
shoot, bro. I can't even see that with you. That I
Yeah,
that
it's
blows
all
my
another
mind.
life. Yeah, it's another life.
Oh my
But
god.
when I look back at it, like I look at why I was doing that stuff, and it was with other kids, and I was doing it to escape. I was doing it to because I didn't know any other way. I thought like this made me feel better, and I didn't feel scared anymore, and I felt I felt like invincible, and it was a feeling that I never felt before. And then I remember I got into a lot of trouble, which thankfully, you know, I got arrested and all this
Oh
stuff.
my
And thankfully,
gosh. You got arrested?
Yeah, I got arrested and charged with a lot of things. But it was really good. I'm so glad because
It
like
was
I
really
don't know
good.
I don't know the path I could have been on. I mean, I was a good kid. I had a really good heart all my life, but
Yeah.
it was just like I needed something to to remind me of that. And that's, that happened at the age of 17. I was just a few days before I was 18. Um, I got put on house arrest for a year. And again, it was the best thing that could have ever happened because that same year, right when I got out of house arrest, and again, I don't know how this happened because they do background checks and stuff, but I was able to get a volunteer position at a fire department, and that then I got certified. As I went to fire school, got certified, and that fire like me becoming a firefighter was like the replacement from all of like the drugs and stuff like that
Yeah.
because that made me feel safe. It made me feel like a hero. It made me feel like I can make a difference in people's lives. And that became my new focus. I wanted to be the best firefighter that I can possibly be. I wanted to like learn all I can learn. I wanted to save lives. When I heard like when I heard when I was a firefighter and I heard like respond to a fully involved house fire. There's people trapped inside the structure. I was like, let's go. I was like, it's time. Like put me in, coach. Like
Get the
it
suit
was
on, get the cape on, let's go.
yeah, and that's what it felt like. It gave me that ability to feel like I mattered and like that I was helping people and that I was making a difference.
Yeah. And so then you became Mr. Ninja Warrior, right? How did you get into that? Tell,
Oh
because
my
the
God.
audience
So
definitely wants to know.
long story short, because yeah, I don't want to, this can go on and on. Long story short, I was, this all spiraled off of the back end of a firefighter accident. And if you know the Ninja Warrior show, it always comes from a good story, some
Yeah, has
drama and
to.
so, yeah. Well, mine was so it was November 28th, 2009. We were responding to a routine house fire. And I say routine like a house fire is a house fire, but to us it's routine. And we arrive on scene. And as we get there, dispatch is like, there's two brothers trapped inside the structure. There's flames coming out the window. We're like, boom, I get into action.
Oh
I'm the junior
wow.
firefighter at the time. So I rush in with the hose and with some I have my partner behind me. We had a couple tools because we had to do a rescue and we're crawling beneath the smoke line. There's flames coming out, like hitting us. We're having to hit hot spots,
Oh boy.
and I'm searching for a doorway. And I can't really see anything. Visibility is very low, and with any fire scene, electricity shut off by like a lieutenant or an engineer or somebody on the outside, and that was done. But what we didn't know at the time were the neighbors, or sorry, the people that lived there were stealing electricity from their neighbors. They were running wires across. Yeah, a low quality part of town, let's say that. And uh, so as I'm searching for this doorway, my hand hit a live wire, and it sent an electrical current through my body, out my back,
Oh.
and boom, took me out. I was next thing I know, I'm out of the house. Things are like all a blur. I just hear people yelling and voices, and I get thrown to the back of an ambulance, and everything's a daze. And I remember I
Holy.
kind of come to in the hospital, and I come to, I'm still in my gear. There's like black soot on me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And they're like, "Sir, you've been electrocuted. Like you're like," I'm like, "Am I dead?" They're like, "No, you're alive." I'm like, "Oh," and, and I remembered like just kind of going in and out of there. They hooked me up to like all these IVs because they had to pump water. Whenever you get like shocked or electrocuted, electrocuted means you die. I don't think I actually died, so I'd say it was just a shock. Um, they have to your kidneys and a lot of your organs like shrivel up,
Oh.
and so they have to pump fluid in there to rejuvenate them. And that's where it stemmed from, right? I remember like this doctor, white haired man, looking down on me, and he's like, "Son, you're way too young to be this out of shape and this unhealthy." So at the
Oh.
time, I was like 53 pounds overweight. I was not taking care of myself. Uh, you know anything about firefighters? They tend to, at least where I worked, they tend to eat good, firehouse food. And that gave me this, like, again, it was another epiphany moment in my life that was like, okay, that hurt.
Hmm.
That hurt my ego big time. And I was like, I want to start getting in shape. And so I committed myself. I committed to myself to that moment on to like getting to like just working out. And that led me to being like, I'm going to be an American Ninja Warrior. I'm going to do it. And that was when Ninja was
Yeah.
pretty new. It was
Wow.
very new. In that moment was 2009 when I said I want to be on the show. 10 years later is when I actually had the guts to try out. 10
Whoa.
years.
Whoa. How
Yeah.
long did it take you to get back in shape, Jason?
Well, back then I didn't know what I was doing, so it took me a long time. But and this is why I believe so much in learning skills and just applying. It took me probably like a year, but in that process, like I learned everything that I was studying books on metabolism and like I was just like learning, and then I got that's just like how I am. Like when I'm into something, I'm gonna freaking learn it. Like even
Yeah.
talking with you, it's like with like I am in it, but when I'm in it, like I'm
Well,
not just like I'm learning everything that I can.
yeah, I want to talk about that because Angela told me a little bit about that part of you, and I didn't know this part of you, Jason. So, can you tell the audience, Jason, about your Google Sheets and about how you document and do
Oh,
data?
she told you that.
Yes. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
this makes a lot of sense with Batman too, right? That dude was crazy about research and data.
Yeah.
So give them a little insight of Jason's mind.
So I track everything. It's some people call it uh some people call it a little bit too much, but I track when it comes to business, of course, I track all of my KPIs,
Yeah.
every like key performance indicators, everything that so I know like where to work on things in my
Well,
business.
and most
But
most business people do, but you take this to a whole nother level
yeah,
personally.
I have what's called a health tracking sheet. And the health tracking sheet, I'm tracking because I have an Aura ring, and so I track my sleep. Like I'm talking every aspect. I track sleep start, sleep end. I track deep sleep, REM sleep, light sleep,
Wow.
active. I track my heart rate.
Every
I
day.
track HRV every day. I track I track my readiness score. It gives me my sleep score. I track my body temperature, my respiratory rate. I track my focus levels. Like I just give it on a percentage. My output for the day, my mood. I track how
Okay.
like my core emotion that day. I track.
So do you input those each like day one by one, or do you like dump them from like the Aura ring themselves?
The
Like
ordering only gives me a partially. A lot of the other is going to be just based on me, and I do it all at beginning of day.
how long does that
Beginning
take
of
you?
day, uh 10 minutes. It's
Wow.
not because it's just like maybe even 5. So I do it at the beginning of the day. I pull up my health tracker, my KPI tracker, and my finance tracker. I
Huh.
have my 3 main trackers, and I just go through and I'm just tracking what I need to track. At the end of the day, I'll go and log in. I so I have back of the day metrics that I track. So like I built like what was my output for the day?
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, it was 80%. So I felt like I had 20% more I could have given, but it was 80%. That was my focus level. Did I read today?
Oh,
Did I
I
do my
love
workout
this.
today?
I love this. I love
How many
this.
steps did I get today? And
So,
I kind of log all that in at the end.
and you do that on a Google sheet that you made up.
Yeah.
I love that. So mine, I do my resting heart rate, my sleep score, and my weight. Which, talking to a fitness guy, you're probably gonna be like, you shouldn't just weigh your day. You don't weigh every day, Matt. Don't weigh every day. But
It's good
I,
accountability.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just do. Um, but the resting heart rate has been one that I really have been focusing on as I get older. I know when I eat what I'm not supposed to eat or drink what I'm not supposed to drink, that sucker will go up like 10 points. No doubt.
And it's good to be able to see the trends over time. I think that's what the key is you
Yeah.
could see what your averages are for that month. It's not about having because things can dip one day if you eat some food that might not be that work with your body or
Yeah.
whatever. You might have like I had a bad night of sleep last night because like I tweaked my back playing with my 4-year-old. Uh, Go figure, right? It was a frisbee. He was like, "Throw the frisbee on the roof, Dad," and I was like, "Sure." And so I was like,
Oh,
and I twisted back, and I
that's
went
what.
boom, and I was like, "Man, I do like 300-pound deadlifts, and I'm like fine, but I throw a freaking frisbee, and I
Oh,
tweak my back.
isn't that
It's a
fun?
crazy,
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah, as we get older, you don't think about, oh, I should probably stretch a little tiny bit before I do this, because I've hurt myself
yeah."
many times not
Hmm.
doing that. Um, so back to your story, um, Jason, we had some pretty awesome moments together at the BLN, and I'm looking very much forward working with you one on one. But I want you to talk about, because it's Valentine's Day for us today, love, right? Um, where did you find, because it sounds like growing up, like mom and dad, I don't know, like if you want to dive into that, but if you could kind of tell us, like, how did they show you love? Like, how did they support you? Um, did they believe you? I mean, you said that you tried to tell everybody about your voice. Like, did mom and dad hear you? Right? Because I know in my life, my mom heard me, but my dad, I didn't get to really talk to him very much.
Yeah,
What was it like for you?
yeah. I definitely think they. I mean, my household, it was mixed. Like my parents definitely showed a lot of love to me. Like, I mean, to the point where I mean, we pretty much got most things that we wanted. Like I would say I was pretty spoiled for a
Yeah,
while.
did you have the first Nintendo on the block?
Maybe not the first on the block, but I was in the top three.
That's
I was in
legit.
the top three kids
That's
to get
legit.
it. And so there's definitely a lot of love in our household. It's like then it was like mixed, because you got to think, and this is something I have to be super observant of, and like how with behaviors and stuff like that. You know, my parents, just like many of our parents, they go through their own stuff, their own lessons,
Yep.
and so um, I felt heard at my house, but I had a lot of mixed lessons on my worth, and I don't think it was an intentional thing by
Mm,
either of my parents. It's just I feel like as kids, we kind of go through and we perceive things a certain way.
yeah.
And so I didn't know. I honestly, I grew up just thinking that I was just worthless. And I think that
Mm,
stemmed mainly from the kids around like the neighborhood and schools and stuff like that. And at home, I felt like it was almost like they felt bad for me.
mm.
And that's why I was getting the love.
A little pity.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm processing this now, but
Good.
like as I think about that, I didn't really feel like I was good enough for
Oh,
anything.
man, Jason.
Like I remember being on the baseball team, and like my own dad was the coach, and he benched me, and I was just like, what? This because like he's so competitive, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not good. I'm like I was scared of the ball, and like I remember like nobody really like and I kind of I have a big desire to mentor younger kids because like I remember like why didn't somebody just like help me?
Mm,
Like why did I'm sure a lot of kids are scared of the ball, but why like you just get benched and you're told you're not good enough
mm.
to be on teams? But I'm like why wouldn't you just like work with the kids and be like, hey, like throw a fast pitch at me a couple times so I can feel that it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like hit
Yeah.
me with the ball a couple times. I don't know, like do something. And so there's a lot of mixed kind of like a mixed kind of messages that were sent. Like we like you're loved, but you're not good enough. You're average at great, and like it's crazy what happens because like I am highly intelligent, and but I grew up most of my life thinking I was really stupid
Mm.
because and it's crazy, right? How you think about how we process things as humans. I thought I was stupid, and therefore I didn't do that well in school. But I excel in everything that I do now
Hmm.
because I believe my beliefs have changed. I
Hmm.
believe that I am smart. I believe that I am good enough. I believe that I am capable. And it's like anything that I want to be good at outside of maybe basketball. I just don't know if I have the natural talents for that, but maybe that's a belief. Um, I'm good at. And so that's kind of the vibe that happened around, I would say around like my household and just like some of the mixed messages that I got as a child, where it's like, oh, I don't know if that answers.
No, it's great, Jason. And I know I put you on the spot, so thank you for being so honest about that. Because I know, though digging in the past kind of, it's hard. It's hard to remember. And, it's it's just it's a little foggy sometimes, right? As we grow up, we look at our parents literally as superheroes most of the time as a child. And then,
Hmm.
you become a teenager and you get older and you start to see your parents for actually who they are. And then,
Yeah.
when you get in your 30s and 40s, you really appreciate how hard they tried. I hope. And I hope that
Yeah.
everybody has a parent, at least one adult in their life that didn't give up on them, that told them that they could do anything that they believed in. Like my mom. My mom literally told me, "Matt, if you believe you can do it, it's going to happen."
Yeah.
And you know, thank God that she said that to me, right? Like there are so many parents out there that I've dealt with their children that did not believe in their children. And they'd come to me and I'd empower them and give them all the love in the world, right? And then they go home and it was like, you suck at singing, you're terrible. Bertho is feeding you a bunch of bullshit, like he doesn't know what he's talking about, blah blah blah. And
Hmm. Yeah, that impacts them majorly.
big
And
time.
when I think about it, like I think my like especially my mom, I think she like was more like I don't think she ever meant this. Well, I know she didn't mean this in like uh a bad way. But I remember like when I was first getting when I retired from the fire department, I was in really good shape. I got in really good shape at that time. And I was like, I want to be a personal trainer. I'm going to start being a personal trainer and I'm going to help other people get in shape because I was so inspired. I felt so freaking good. And I was like,
Yep.
I want other people to feel like this.
Yep.
And I remember like I started getting a personal training job and I discovered my entrepreneurial genes
There you
that
go.
run deep in my family. And because my dad he has a business. My grandfather had hotels and start on Miami Beach and had a business. And like we come
Wow.
from a line of entrepreneurs. And I remember my mom saying, yeah, you'll never make money as a personal trainer though. They don't make good money. And um and that was just information that she got from like a coworker who had a daughter that was broke as a personal trainer. And so like I heard that, but I was like, I refuse to believe it.
Hmm.
I refuse. Like I'm going to achieve it. I think I had this like I wanted to prove them wrong. I want to prove people wrong. And so I like did I make a lot of money as a personal trainer? Yes. I made a lot of money because I started I started an online coaching bit. I built a gym to over 300 members. I started an online coaching business and that
Wow.
sprung me into this what I do today. I've made over $1 million.
Wow,
And
Jason.
so like but I remember if I would have taken that advice of somebody that I believe had my best interests at heart, but it was trying to like push me in the right direction after I left the. But I think that's what a lot of people hear. Like they'll have a parent or a sibling or somebody that says, I don't think you could do like I don't think this is a great
Oh,
decision, but
yeah.
you don't know. Like if I just stayed a personal trainer, yeah, I probably would be not make great money. But
Yeah.
what it springs you into, like it's like a stepping stone for something. And that's why I believe all of us should follow our intuition. Follow like because my intuition told me to do it. Like I was like, I feel like passionate about this. And and so and I'm stubborn. So when somebody said something to me, I'm like, oh yeah, watch me, watch. I'm gonna freaking make so much damn money. You said I can't make money. I'm gonna make so much
I
money.
love
Watch
that.
me.
I love
But
it.
I believe it's us leaning into now. If it was like selling crypto or not you know what I'm saying, like day trade, like something that's like, I would be like, all right, well, if you're like, I don't know, like let's weigh this out a little bit. Let's think about this. But when you're driven from something that's like inside of you,
Hmm. Well, yeah, you're calling,
yeah.
and that's that's where I'm at right now. That's where you're at right now. That's where Angela's at right now. Jr. is at that moment right now. That stepping into your calling, that is like God's call, right? That's scary, man. And what's scary about it is you're constantly evolving too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into it. I'm not ready to get into it. But Jason and I had a moment with Gene at the BLN where I was like, Gene, are we really doing this right now, man? I'm not ready for this. And Jason, I just want to thank you again publicly on this podcast for being so open and gracious for that moment to happen. Um, it's a moment I'm never going to forget for the rest of my life. Um, but the calling, and Jason, you heard him say it, you felt him say it, he said it with such passion, that intuition, right? That intuition saved his life, guys. Like, he didn't give up. Something told him to hold on in the middle of the ocean, even when he's bleeding out. He had the the vision to rip his freaking shirt off and to put it around his wrist to save his life. And a man fishing saw this all happening and didn't have the courage or even to think about come to help this boy. And Jason, I applaud you because you've learned how to help yourself. And you figured out, I am the creator of my life, a co-creator with God, that, you know, we really are limitless in what we can
Mm-hmm.
do. And, it's awesome that I have you in my circle now. Like, I'm so thankful for that. Like, you're a great man.
Which leads to, I think, a very powerful point. It's like being able to surround yourself in communities that have people that are on similar, say, wavelengths as you. You know, community is a really big thing
Yep.
to infuse yourself into the right communities to
Yep.
infuse yourself into. Um, and I think like, full circle here, that's how I found my voice.
Hmm.
It's being around other people and watching them what they're doing and starting to emulate people. And I think there's like stages. This is just from my observation in my experience in finding my voice. It was at first emulating others.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like me having like a mask on. Right? So if I put like this mask on, I was like afraid to say what I really wanted to say. And so I started to emulate other people, say kind of what they were saying, and then slowly the mask started to peel,
Yep.
and maybe I look like Two-Face or whatever.
Like
And
Phantom of
I
the
started
Opera.
saying things that were more like me, but it was still I wasn't sharing it all. I was still kind of hiding behind
Yeah,
somebody else's
man.
message. And then finally, I had the courage to rip off the full mask. And
Yes.
maybe there's like a bit or like a piece or two that's stuck on that I gotta
Yep.
flick off still,
Yep.
but to where I'm able to share my message and find my voice. And I think once you rip off your mask, which I believe happens when you're surrounded by other people who are ripping off their mask, sometimes you have the courage to do it when you see others doing it. And when you feel so passionately about something, like at first, like I started to speak to little children about vegetables and about eating healthy. Then I started to speak to like businessmen and CEOs about the power of taking care of yourself, personal development.
Yep.
Now I'm speaking to entrepreneurs about like how to learn skills, how to develop the right mindset, and how to
Mm.
communicate their message. Because like but it comes from a passion. And so once
Yep.
for me, like once I found that passion and when I allow it to expand, like it's like if you don't use your voice, if you don't share your message, then you're literally denying a duty that God's given to you,
Mm.
to an assignment that you're given.
Yep.
And from my experience, when you deny that assignment, you will be hit with some freaking boulders, but you will be hit with some things to get you on path.
Oh, that's so true. Yep. I got knocked the F out last year, and finally I said, okay, God, I'm all in on Voice by Matt. Thank you. So I get that.
Yeah,
Well, Jason,
yeah.
we're about out of time, but I want them to know how to get a hold of you. So, and tell them, because I think you kind of said it, but in short, kind of tell them what you're doing now in your business and how you help people. Because I don't want to miss that, because I'm sure people are like, man, I really like Jason. I want to work with him. So let them know how they can get a hold of you, and then how are you helping people right now?
Yeah. I'm most present on Facebook under my name, Jason Meland, Meland. And I post longer form content, more in-depth content. Some people say, I literally have people message me like at least once or twice a week telling me they made money from my free content on my YouTube, that it's like impacting them a lot. So it's almost like having a free course
I
on
love
my
that.
YouTube, which is under my name as well, Jason Meland. And um, but how I'm helping people is I primarily help coaches and entrepreneurs, as I alluded to at the beginning. I teach them how to become sought after and in demand in their niche. And I do that by helping them develop the money making skills by installing systems like content systems, lead nurture systems, retention systems, so that they can maximize the amount of cash flow that they're bringing in and sales that they're generating, and ultimately teaching them how to build their own like tribe-like community of buyers. So that
Yeah.
way they have their own circle of people that they're impacting, and that they're able to grow a wildly profitable business doing what they love.
I love that. And you've done it, so you know exactly how to help people too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you like to leave the listeners with today, Jason? Because you've answered a lot of the questions that I ask at the end. So I'm like, well, okay. Because you answered, what do you love? You love helping people. You have a passion for helping people find their voice, like just kind of like what I'm doing too. You help them find their voice by promoting themselves on social media,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yep.
beautiful. You know, what makes you tick? I think you answered that too. You like a good challenge. You like somebody to tell you, "Oh, you can't do that," and you're like, oh, "Okay, well, watch me." Um, I had James Lawrence on this last week, and he said that. He said, "Tell me I can't do it." So
Hmm.
you're in the
Yeah.
same world with the Iron Cowboy, so that's pretty legit. Um, and then your purposes, you told us every single one, man. Like, you are a superhero now. You came literally out of the depths of the ocean, bro. Like, I think that is so badass. I mean, you're way better than Aquaman, for sure.
I got long hair like Jason, so
Yeah,
whatever his name is.
but you're better than Aquaman, for sure. And then the last question, I think I'm going to let you answer right now, actually, is why is Jason on Earth?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's something that I seek all of the time. And I have I'll end with like two parts on this. So first, I'm gonna start with um this is that you listening right now, like your message matters
Mm,
right now
mm,
more than it ever has before. Like there's people out there right now who are literally suffering, who are 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 they're they're suffering. We'll leave it at that. They're suffering in that you have a message inside of you, whether you're running a business, whether you have a message in a church, whether you have a message to a community, whether it's to your family, it doesn't
mm.
matter. You have this message inside of you.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to speak that message because it
Yep.
matters right now more than it ever has before. And that's why I feel like I'm on this earth. My
Mm.
job, my assignment, my duty, it's to help people be able to learn how to effectively communicate their messages out to the world in a way that connects with their audience, in a way that captivates their audience, in a way that converts their audience into becoming buyers. And when they do that, they're going to form their own communities And so my mission at this time of my life, it might change. It's to be able to help 1,000 entrepreneurs become in demand, build communities. So together we can help end prolonged human suffering.
Oh, I love that, Jason. That's freaking great. That's so good, so clear, so concise. Uh, man. Well, Jason, thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
yeah, you have such a good soul, and I can't wait to even dig deeper with you and help you rip out even more of that to let people feel you and find your voice even more. So, I'm looking forward to that part of the journey, and I'm sure I'm going to see you in real life this year again. No, there's no doubt that I'm not going to see you. I know I will. Um, but
Outside of the matrix.
yeah, that's right. But I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your voice, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. All right. We will talk to you guys next week on Voiced by Matt. Please leave us a review and put some comments in if you have any shout outs you'd like to give to Jason. And follow him on Facebook and Instagram. You have Instagram, right, Jason?
Yep.
Yeah, you can follow him on Instagram, and we'll put his links in bio in the show notes. So thank you guys. Have a great week, and keep finding that voice. Bye.